Hello everyone, I am Arpit Kumar and I am here to talk about my individual project book which is coming out as a Dalit by Yashika Dutt. About the author. So Yashika Dutt is a journalist, author and a multimedia storyteller based in New York City. She was born in Ajmer, India and her experiences as Dalit woman have greatly influenced her work. Dutt's writing has appeared in a variety of publications, including the New York Times, the Atlantic, and the Guardian. And she has worked as a news producer for CNN IBN in New Delhi. Yashika is the author of the book Coming Out as a Dalit, and I choose this book, which is based on her experiences growing up as a Dalit woman in India and coming to terms with her identity. The book has been widely praised for its honesty, insights, and powerful message, and it has helped to bring greater awareness to the challenges faced by Dalits and other marginalized groups in India. In addition to her work as a writer, Yashika is also the founder of an online platform called Documenting Dalit History on Tumblr, which aims to promote greater awareness and understanding of Dalit history and culture. She is a graduate of Columbia Journalism School and has received several awards for her work, including Sahitya Akademi Yuva Puraskar, a Fulbright Fellowship, and a South Asian Journalists Association Award. Yashika Dutt, author of the book, has done her bit of research and thinking to understand how her personal experiences are shaped by her surrounding. Dalit student Rohit Vemula's tragic suicide in January 2016 started many charged conversations around caste-based discrimination in universities in India. For Yashika Dutt, a journalist living in New York City, this was the moment to stop living a lie and admit to something that she has hidden from friends and colleagues for over a decade, that she was a Dalit. In coming out as a Dalit, Dutt recognizes the exhausting burden of living with the secret and how she was terrified of being found out. She talks about the tremendous feeling of empowerment she experienced when she finally stood up for herself and her community and shrugged off the fake upper caste identity she'd had to construct for herself. As she began to understand the inequities of the caste system, she also had to deal with the crushing guilt of denying her history and the struggles of her grandparents and many Dalit reformers who fought for equal rights. In this personal memoir, that is also a narrative of Dalits, she writes about the journey of coming to terms with her identity and takes us through the history of Dalit movement, the consequences of her community's lack of access to education and culture, the need for caste-based reservation, the absence of voices in mainstream media, Dalit women's ongoing movement and their ongoing contributions, and attempts to answer crucial questions about caste and privilege, woven from personal narratives from her own life as well as that of other Dalits. This book forces us to confront the injustice of caste and also serves as a call to action. 70 years of independence and yet Dalits and its synonyms are curse words in Hindi vocabulary. You might have heard to something like bhangi hai kya, chamar hai kya and pasi hai kya. So these are Dalit caste which are still used as curse words. It was a truly eye-opening experience about the form of injustice that needs urgent attention. Yashika covers very complex issues in this book while keeping easy to understand and follow. This book talks about how finely caste exists among us that it often goes unnoticed. And if someone just shrugs their shoulders believing they are above caste discrimination doesn't matter, this book is definitely for them. Being casteless is a privilege, and it's high time upper caste urban educated folks acknowledge and accepted the same. As the author says, acknowledgement and acceptance will eventually lay the path for challenging the status quo. This book will make anyone compassionate enough tear up with its detail of manual scavenging, Dalit student suicide, and Dalit women rapes. The book talks about the mental states that Dalits go through to hide their caste. It also talks about the abysmal representation of Dalits in academia, media, law, and judiciary, all of which are necessary to bring the light to discrimination faced by Dalits. Lack of Dalits in these fields eventually leads to a single view narrative by just the upper caste for whom Dalits are either poor or non-deserving reservation quota inconveniences. For that reason, the author memoirs become an excellent tool to arm you with as it's so well articulated. While many of us claim the absence of caste and caste-based discrimination, it becomes difficult for one to express what it is about caste that makes it necessary to annihilate it. We neither have the language, rarely the knowledge, and never the lived experience of a Dalit. With language, without language and knowledge, it becomes impossible to engage with someone who feels differently about casteism. Coming out as a Dalit, a memoir to the author's personal story as to how she, as a middle class Indian, and a Dalit belonging to a family with two generations of government servants, navigates herself while aspiring for a life that has been ingrained in her to only belong to the upper caste. It's a moving account that brings to light how casteism is mired even in the most progressive and upper urban spaces such as universities, corporate houses, media offices, and how Indian society is anything but post caste. Author Yashika Dutt's journey into discovering herself and accepting the myriad ways in which her identity and her caste are intertwined is remarkable because as she starts learning about Dalits and the insidious as well as explicit discrimination that Dalits are subjected to in all spheres of their lives, she nudges the reader to perceive the world from the prism of discrimination. This jolts you into coming to terms with the injustice that have been melted out to Dalits since time immemorial on the basis of arbitrary notion of what constitutes an upper caste and who belongs to the lower caste, and that still continues to this day. There is absolutely no rational explanation behind the division of society into four varnas except for the maintenance of status quo by those who benefit from this segregation. That provides her readers with not just her personal story but also acquaints us with the history of caste-based discrimination and the Dalit movement. Therefore, for anyone seeking initiation into learning more about casteism and how terribly it afflicts a Dalit and how opportunities that are made available to upper castes are in one way or another is the outcome of their privilege, this memoir would be the best place to start. Right from the activism of Phule and Savitri Bai to the concerted efforts of Dr. B.R. Ambedkar and down to Rohit Vemula's activism and subsequent suicide, that attempts to tell her readers that casteism is an evil which needs to eradicate it, and for that it must at first be acknowledged as an evil. Even if you fail to read the book in its entirety, I would highly recommend reading the chapter on reservation. That has made the most sufficient argument for reservation based backed with fact, data and research. It is impeccable and easy to access. For the longest time as a kid as well, I also unfortunately to believe that reservations should have been made on the lines of an individual's economic status. Over a period that through thought process of mine changed as I was made aware of the entrenched social injustice that needed reparations by reading texts like this, but I never had the knowledge to support my belief and express it without faltering or questioning myself. For that reason, this chapter stood out from the rest of the memoir because it was loaded with information that one can successfully disseminate to make others realize how unaware and ignorant we who oppose caste-based discrimination are and have been also. Another thing that stood out is the relationship, and I could relate to it from my personal life as well, between Dutt and her mother, and how Dutt's mother went to the end of the earth to ensure that she never had to compromise on her education. Despite the unsupportive patriarchal household that she resided in, along with the meager resources at her disposal, her mother refusal to give up on her daughter. I marveled at the tenacity of the author's mother. I applauded their commitment to their dreams, and I cried when I related, myself being a Dalit, to her fear at being found out as a slap to our collective humanity that therefore there are people among us who are living with such fear at a subliminal level. Here I talk about the presence of core themes in the textbook, the precarious role of individual in a dynamic society. This book explores the challenges of maintaining individual identity in a society that values conformity and adherence to social norms. As in the case of Yashika Dutt, who acted of being a upper caste Hindus to adhere to the social norms. The author's experience highlights the difficulties faced by individuals who are marginalized in a society that is constantly changing and evolving. Um, the the constraints of individual freedom. Second point, the book explores the limitations on individual freedom imposed by the societal norms and expectations, particularly for the marginalized individual. The author's experience highlights the challenges of breaking free from these constraints and embracing one true self. Loss of identity. The book also highlights the impact of social norms on individuals' identity and challenges faced by the individual who are forced to conform to social expectation. The author's journey of self-discovery underscores the importance of embracing one's true identity and resisting the pressure to conform. Pangs of isolation and alienation. The book explores the feeling of isolation and alienation experienced by the marginalized individuals who are not fully accepted by the society. The author's experience highlights the importance of finding supportive communities and relationship in the face of these challenges. Search for the Self. The book is largely about the author's journey of self-discovery as it grapples with the questions of identity, belonging, and purpose. The author's experiences highlight the importance for searching and embracing one's true self, even in the face of societal pressure. Okay, so why you should read this book? By reading this book, you will gain insight into complexity of caste and caste-based discrimination in India. You will explore the importance of individual freedom and struggle for survival. You will also get to know how toxic it feels to hide your identity and to be someone else, to fit into the society. You will gain a better understanding of the impact of societal norms on individual identity. You will learn about the importance of family and community in navigating the challenges of discrimination. You will develop a deeper understanding of the historical and cultural factors that has shaped India's caste system. You will understand the role of media in shaping public opinion about marginalized community. Okay, this was it from my side. Arpit Kumar signing out.